Hello everyone and welcome back to Superhero Rewind Unscripted. It's time for part 2 of my massive and insane superhero and comic book movie collection. We made it all the way through most of the G's last time, gentlemen. And ladies, if there are any ladies watching, isn't that exciting? 2 whole hours last time, and that's as far as we got. I'm going to try really hard to get all the way through the movies tonight, which might be ambitious, but I'll go another full 2 hours if it takes that long. And who knows, maybe we'll really get rolling, and we'll even get through the TV tonight. I kind of doubt it. I think this is going to take a part 3, but we're going to try it, and I've only got one more G, and then we'll get right on into E, F, G, H, the H's. Anyway, welcome guys. Thanks for watching live. If you're doing that, thanks a lot for watching the after the fact as well. And we'll get back to reviews as soon as I get finished with this whole thing. Although, I do have a list video planned for the beginning of next month, so that actually may be the next thing on the docket now that I'm thinking about it, if we don't manage to do this in just 2 parts. I want to say thanks as always to the patrons, and if you would like to become a Superhero Rewind producer yourself and you're not already, the $10 tier at Patreon is how to do that, patreon.com/geekvolution, and that gets you lots of cool perks, including having your name read at the end of the show, becoming part of the Superhero Rewind Discord. You get to be a member of the Rewind selection board and help us pick stuff when I get back to reviews. And I wanted to mention this again at the front of the show because next week we're going to be, actually, Yes, next week, excuse me, end of the month, we're going to be doing a Superhero Rewind pitch meeting for the patrons Saturday night, 10 o'clock. Central Time, and I'm going to let those guys throw ideas at me for topics to do here on the show, because after all, it's not just about reviews, we also do stuff like this. So anyway, without further ado, we're going to get right back into the movies. So I've got a stack here. Let's get right into it. So first up, we've got Griff the Invisible. This is the last of the G's. This was sent to me by one of our viewers years and years ago when I had a P.O. box. I don't know anything about this movie. It's an indie superhero movie of some kind. Vogue called it smart, charming, and utterly unique. So that sounds good, if that's what it is. He's got kind of a generic costume there. I will review that at some point. I know nothing about this. But hey, look, the disc is in it, so I will get to do that. I'm going to stop after each snack and see what you guys are saying in the comments, like I did the last time. And I've set this up a little bit differently than before, so let me know if you're having any difficulty hearing me or anything. But I've got the mic not quite as close to me as I did before, because moving back and forth, I realized I was standing in front of it quite a bit last time, and it was kind of changing the audio quality. So anyway, moving right along. I've never done anything like this before live, so bear with me, and thanks a bunch, guys. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, which I just reviewed a few weeks ago. This was the penultimate of recent reviews, and had a lot to say about that. I've got just the regular Blu-ray copy there with the slipcase, another kind of lenticular, I don't know if these are technically lenticular, but they've got lots of colors that pop out when you move them back and forth, cover for the slipcase. And then we have Gundala, Rise of a Hero, just a random newer superhero movie that I think is maybe an Italian movie? No, Indonesian, in fact. So this is not an American-made movie, and I assume that this is subbed or dubbed. Yeah, English language available, so it is dubbed as well as subbed, it looks like. I don't know anything about this quality-wise, and once again, or anything, and once again, I have not even taken this out of the shrink wrap yet. This is not a thing technically I would have to do on Superhero Rewind, since it's not originally English language, but I own it, so I probably will, or at least I'll give it a watch at some point and do a sign flip video. And I think that was maybe a Walmart find. Occasionally when weird indie, off the beaten path, or like B-movie things come out for superhero stuff, if it's cheap, I'll go ahead and pick it up, because it's going to wind up back here eventually. If you're just tuning in, I buy every movie based on a comic book, and every movie that technically qualifies as a superhero thing. So this is not 100% complete, but I am working on it all the time. Just like trying to get all the movies reviewed on Superhero Rewind. Here is Hancock, and this is the one disc unrated edition, it says, which is kind of this edition screaming, buy the nicer one. But it also has a slipcase. This is the DVD that I used for the Superhero Rewind all those years ago, and another thing that I might eventually update. Here is The Haunted World of El Superbeasto, a movie that I only bought because somebody requested it when I did the 12 Days of Rewind several years ago now. What was that, 2018, 2017? And, of course, I did a review. You can listen to that. I was real lukewarm on this. It had its moments, but it's a Rob Zombie thing. It's certainly better, though, than his Monsters. But this is just the regular DVD edition of that. And then we get into Hellboy. Here is the big Hellboy director's cut set that is a whopping 3-disc set for that one movie. And this doesn't even have Hellboy 2 with it. I had the regular set for a long time, and then I found this for real cheap at a vintage stock or somewhere and went ahead and picked it up. I've not looked at the extra special features that are on this. I think it's got even a commentary that's not on the original, maybe multiple commentaries. I need to go through this at some point. And one video I'd like to make, or a podcast eventually, is a show on special features. And I think it'd be cool to maybe do a top 10 list or just run down some of the best featurettes that, and maybe even commentaries that exist on some of these sets. And that would take some research. That'd be quite a project, but that's a thing I've wanted to do for years. And I'm actually kind of glad that I've waited, because there's some other good things now that would be worth putting there. And of course, I can also talk about the pros and cons to Blu-ray these days versus DVD when I got started with all of this, where the quality of transfers is much, much better, but they're very often are kind of bare bones features. So the features themselves are not always as good, or there's not as much of them, but there's still good stuff that comes out, and it will be worth putting in a list. And then I've got Hellboy 2, The Golden Army, of course. This is just the old DVD version that I used for the Rewind. And then we've got the dreaded David Harbour Hellboy remake, which is more dreaded just because this didn't get a third movie. I talked about that in my top 10 franchises video not too long ago. This also still in the shrink wrap, and honestly, probably no reason to take that out until I have to do the rewind on it. Like I said last week, I really meant to take everything out of the shrink wrap before this, and I got quite a bit of it, but there's still several that I missed, because I'd probably just have to take a bunch of stuff down and go through everything piece by piece. But anyway, then we get into the Hellboy animated movies. So here is Sword of Storms, and Blood and Iron. I guess I have... Okay, so I did this last time too. I'm finding some duplicates of things that I don't really need both editions. This looks nice, I gotta be honest with you, but I've got the... So now I'm actually not 100% sure if I want to hang on to this or not. It's got a comic inside, apparently. I've never looked real close at this, and I haven't done rewinds on these either. People say good things about these. I've never watched them. I should eventually. Does this have the comic with it? It does not. I will probably go ahead and sell this. So I've been making a... Oh, I didn't even realize that Ron Perlman and Selma Blair and Doug Jones did the voices here. Okay, cool. I didn't even know that. But yeah, I'll probably put this with my stack of box sets and movies that I'm selling that I don't need anymore. Let me put the slipcase back with this. Anyway, because I have both of them here, also still in the shrink wrap. So yeah, there's that. It's a double disc that's got both of those. Or maybe it's a flip disc. I kind of hope that it's not. Well, anyway, then we get to Hero Tomorrow, another movie that is very, very indie, was apparently at some festivals, and has a really kind of, let's see, New York Comic Con and Fantasia Film Festival. I don't know anything about this. It's kind of a crummy box. I might try to transfer this to a better box at some point with the insert, but this looks like it was made in somebody's basement. And, oh, I still have the note from whoever sent me this in the mail all those years ago. I try to hang on to these when I can. Scott S. from a million years ago. This is probably 2011, 2012. So another thing that I should watch and maybe do a rewind on. I was going to say maybe this is just comic book and not superhero, but given that it has the word hero in the title, I kind of like the choice of making the front of this. It's a trippy comic shop romance, it says. And I kind of like the idea of trying to make this look like a comic cover. So that's kind of fun. And then we have How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way, which is technically not a movie, but it doesn't really belong in TV. So I've just put this on my shelf with the rest of my superhero and comic book stuff. This is really worth looking at, especially if you're either interested in just the history of Marvel and you like Buscema and Stan Lee, and you want to see what they were like back in the 80s, and because I think late 80s, early 90s is when this originally came out, and I think there's a couple of versions of this. I think this is maybe, I was going to say I think this is maybe an updated version, but I'm actually not sure about that. This is based on a book, and I think I have the book too, How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way. I'll tell a quick amusing story about this. One night I was feeling, this is maybe 2 or 3 years ago, no, longer than that. This would have been 2018 maybe, so at least 4 years ago. Anyway, I was by myself. I was hanging out in my bat cave back in the old house, and I got kind of silly, kind of goofy. I was just sort of having like a party all by myself, and not really, but like I was hanging out. I was feeling kind of silly, and I was drinking whiskey, and I had a couple of whiskey shots. It was peach whiskey, and after this, I will never have whiskey again. I was loving the flavor of that, and I just couldn't stop drinking it, and I got kind of drunk. And I don't do this kind of thing very often. This is probably once in 4 or 5 times my whole life I've gotten, this hammered. And I, again, all by myself, could barely get up a staircase. And I decided to sit down and watch How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way, just super drunk, stone-faced drunk. And it was hilarious. That drunk, this was very, very funny, and I couldn't stop laughing at it. So, excited to look at this sober at some point. And then, here is the much maligned Howard the Duck special edition, and they did a really good job with the special edition. There's good features, there's a featurette. It's kind of fun to watch the producers kind of in denial about this whole thing, particularly, I think, Gloria Katz, yeah, and I would like to upgrade this at some point to the Blu-ray. It got, I think, an anniversary edition, and I don't know if it has new features or anything on it, but it probably has a nicer, or at least slightly nicer transfer. Okay, so let's go ahead and get this on the shelf. Let's see. Once again, I think I put some of these down wrong. I gotta get better at this. I'm going to go ahead and check comments and see what folks are saying and how you guys are doing. Tonight, we're in it for the long haul, folks. Oh. Okay, hopefully we don't have any major casualties tonight. I can't believe I got through that whole first podcast without dropping anything. These are a little tighter on this particular shelf. Okay, getting further into the H's. We're going to go all the way to J here because there's not a lot in the way of H and I. Whoa, now I'm dropping everything. Sorry, Invincible Iron Man. Invincible Iron Man. Spoilers. I have that. Alright, let's see what folks are saying. Hi, everybody. What's up? Hi, Logan. Hi there. Lots of folks here in the comments, and some folks that weren't here last week. Good to see you guys. Bob the Hun, will you review the foreign superhero film where Spider-Man is a rapist? Didn't know about that. I'm not in a hurry to, and I certainly, again, don't have to for my criteria on Superhero Rewind, so I don't know. Probably not. Oh, Chewbacca's Lover requested Super El Bisto. Thanks, man. I suppose. Bob the Hun, $2 super chat. Thanks so much. The animated Hellboy's were shown on Cartoon Network. I was not aware of that. I thought those were direct-to-video. Now, were they shown there first, or were they video and then they went there? I don't really know that. Chewbacca's Lover, $2 super chat. Do you still have a P.O. box where people can send you stuff? I haven't in a long time, and I have been thinking about opening it again, maybe, especially because I've been starting to finally bulk up the collection again, and like I said last week, this is not me begging for anything, but sometimes people know about things that I don't, and I also get requests still pretty frequently to open the P.O. box back up so that people can send me things. And some people still are just kind of old-fashioned, like to do the snail mail thing, and it's really neat that folks want to do that, so I kind of want to maybe accommodate that again. But it was a little bit of a pain to keep up with it and remember to keep going, because, you know, you don't get mail all the time. But I'm seriously considering opening it again. So, yeah. Joshua Levy, is that an IKEA bookshelf? It is indeed. We have several of these around the house. I like them a lot. They're real sturdy. Thomas Lowe, price tag intact. Yeah, you're going to see a lot of that. I haven't pulled a lot of those off. And some of the stores that I shop at when I buy this stuff locally, I've been buying more online lately, so I'm not having to deal with as much of that. But when I get them in the wild locally, I very often have to deal with just bad price tags that are hard to get off. And sometimes it looks worse when you take them off than when you leave them on. AMC Whiskey, let me guess, you heard somebody say follow the cold shiver running down your spine. Yes, indeed. Nicholas Bodo, thoughts on the Batman news. We'll try to talk about that tomorrow night on the Captain Logan show. Chewbacca's Lover, they were direct-to-video, aired on Cartoon Network years later. I didn't know that. I thought maybe after you said that, it might be a like a Tartakovsky Clone Wars situation, but apparently not. If I remember correctly, Batman Beyond Return of the Joker premiered on Toonami. Is that right? He says the edited version, AMC Comics. Yeah, I didn't realize that either. Okay, round two. Here we go. Thanks again for the interaction, folks. Here is Hulk. Ang Lee's Hulk. The folks on the Superhero Rewind Discord today, or a day or two ago, were talking about this movie because I think Connor said he finally saw it for the first time, and I just had the bare bones original DVD for that. If there are extra special features on a Blu-ray or something, I definitely would like to see them. I don't know if this even had a commentary. It did, with Ang Lee. Oh, you know what? Now that I say that, I think I probably watched that for the Rewind all those years ago. Incredible Hulk, I just have the DVD for. And in fact, this I can also put in the sell pile because I have this with the big MCU suitcase set. And I thought I pulled all those down, but I missed that in Ant-Man, apparently. Here is Hulk Versus, which I did a rewind on. Twice the Carnage, Hulk versus Thor, Hulk versus Wolverine. If you look these up on Letterboxd, they show up as separate movies because they technically were, but they're short enough that they don't really work as features. They're not shorts, but they're not full length either. They're almost like television episode length, but it's like a 2-episode TV show, basically. So you put these together and you get a feature. And yeah, this box is real crappy looking, so at some point I'll try to maybe upgrade that as well. What I'm finding is that I have this massive cool collection and I need to replace like half of it. Here is a superheroes collection, which includes The Incredible Hulk Returns, Trial of the Incredible Hulk, and wouldn't you know it, once again, How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way. That's also here, which means I really don't need that other set, or that other, I keep saying set when we're talking about single discs, pardon me, the other release of How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way. Am I going to pull this down? Because I kind of like this box. I'm on the fence about hanging on to this. I'm going to set this aside and try to decide later if I really need 2 copies of that just because I like that box better. Because like I said last time, I don't always go in for these like several things on one disc kinds of DVDs, but it is kind of convenient, I guess. But anyway, these are the TV movies that were from the Incredible Hulk TV show, the Bill Bixby show, and I have kind of reunion things, and I have reviewed Trial of the Incredible Hulk, which is hilarious, and the one with Daredevil, and I actually really like that Daredevil actor, and I've never seen Incredible Hulk Returns, which has Thor, so I will review that at some point. And that was another movie that was requested for the 12 Days of Superhero Rewind. And now we have The Incredibles, the 2-disc collector's edition. I just have that on DVD. And Incredibles 2, which, let's see if it's in the shrink wrap. Oh, wow, it's not! That's shocking. I have not watched this since it was in the theater. I only saw it the one time, I think. US Weekly calls it worth the wait. I strongly disagree with that. This is not awful, it's just wholly unmemorable. I honestly couldn't tell you more than 2 things about it right now, probably. But anyway, this was back when we still did Blu-ray DVD combos. I kind of missed those, or at least I certainly did when I was still taking out screenshots for movies. But yeah, I haven't looked at the special features for this or anything, and there's quite a few, it looks like. Is there a commentary? I'd be interested to watch that. Apparently not. Anyway, so there's that, and then we have, unfortunately, the animated version of Injustice, which was... a disappointment would be putting it mildly. I'm not looking forward to doing a rewind on this eventually, but I have done a How We Felt About with Austin, I think. I have Iron Man here, which again, I of course have in the big suitcase set, but I hung on to this one because this was sent in the P.O. box years ago, once again by one of our viewers, and this is the PAL version, I think. Yeah, this is PAL Region 4, and I hung on to this just because it has a cool slipcover with a different cover that we didn't get here. So this is a neat addition, and somebody wanted me to have this, so I'm going to hang on to it. And the lenticular on the actual cover there is kind of neat. Let's see what the disc looks like. Okay, just real standard discs, but this is the 2-disc version. And I don't know if the features are any different there, but it might be worth throwing that in a computer and running a program that would let me do PAL, which I've done before. I have a couple of German versions of movies I'd like to do that with as well. Here is Iron Man 3, and is Iron Man 3 in the big suitcase set? It must be, right? Because this is right after Avengers. So this is just the standard Blu-ray DVD copy. I think I can get away with losing that now as well. And then here is... So this is not a movie, but I have it up here because it's a disc. Here is Iron Man Extremis. This is a motion comic, and I don't collect these typically on purpose, but I have a couple of them because this is another thing that somebody sent me in the mail once. I've not looked at it. Here is the Invincible Iron Man animated movie, which I've been told is really bad. I have not watched this one. I have reviewed the Doctor Strange animated movie that I think was part of this same line, this real short-lived line that they didn't make very many of these. It was Invincible Iron Man and Doctor Strange, and then I want to say, like, I don't know if technically the Hulk versus movies are part of that or if that was later, but I'm sure the same house or the same group made the Ultimate Avengers movies, maybe? I'm not sure, but there were only a few of these movies, and I've got that on DVD. Here is Jonah Hex on DVD. If I paid $10 for this, I paid too much, but of course, Josh Brolin in his first comic book role, and shockingly, he kept getting to do better, and I say shockingly, I mean, this movie's not his fault, and obviously it's Brolin, he does better things, but it is just kind of amusing that he played Jonah Hex, and this movie was absolutely an abomination, and then he gets to be, you know, some major comic book superheroes and villains, and it's oddly kind of the same sort of situation as, what was I going to say? Oh, as like Green Lantern, right? Where you have Ryan Reynolds, and he's in Green Lantern, and then that's awful, but then later he gets to do Deadpool, and they were both in a movie together, so that's kind of interesting. I have Joker only on DVD, which I feel really weird about, and I will eventually get rid of this. And I'd like to get the Steelbook, because there's a really neat Steelbook for this that I found not too pricey in a couple of places. So I'll upgrade this at some point. But once again, I bought it this way because I thought I needed it for Rewind. Here is Judge Dredd, just a really bare bones old DVD, and this is another one of those movies that is old enough, this copy. It's possible that this is even a transfer from the Laserdisc. I'm not sure. But I'm noticing there is an Acclaim logo at the bottom of this where it's trying to sell you the video game. And that's interesting because the video game would have been pretty old by the time this disc would have come out, because that's, what is this, 90, 95, 96, I forget, and that would have been Super Nintendo and maybe Sega Genesis. So that's weird to see an advertisement kind of at the bottom of this for a 16-bit video game on a DVD. I wonder how often that happened. I'm glad I noticed that. Here's a movie I've been told technically kind of counts as a superhero thing, so I went ahead and put it up here. This is Jumper. I would do a rewind on this. I've never watched it. This is, of course, what's his name? Hayden Christensen. And all I know about it is that it's Hayden Christensen just after Star Wars, and he has powers to do some sort of jumping. From the director of Bourne Identity and Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Let's see. David Rice is a young man who knows no boundaries. A jumper. He can teleport. Teleports instantly to any place on Earth. Okay, cool. I didn't actually know what jumper meant in that particular context. This is... I've hung on to some things like this, even though maybe I've talked about this last week, but even though I have the box sets for a lot of these shows, I still like to sometimes hang on to the movie versions when they put several episodes together, just because it's a different way to watch it, where you don't have to watch through the credits for each of them. So if for some reason I wanted to sit down and watch the pilot of Justice League, I think it's 3 parts, as a movie uncut, I can still do that with this DVD. And that's why I've hung on to that. So this is the pilot for that show, and curiously they just call it Justice League as if it's a movie of its own, and you'd never know this is a pilot for a TV show just looking at it, but that is the story that's kind of a weird adaptation of... Sorry, I've got to fix my discs here. I'm realizing I'm putting these down wrong again. But that is kind of an adaptation of War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells, and a curious choice, but I liked it a lot, and I've seen that several times. Here is just the bare bones DVD for Justice League, and yeah, I'll upgrade this at some point, even though it's not good. But once again, I bought it that way for videos. And I'm seeing some super chats, so I'll go ahead and take care of those after I get these back on the shelf. Now, this has been a nice change of pace from the normal grind of reviews, and thank you guys for humoring me with this whole thing. Although, the main reason I'm doing this actually is because once I got, maybe I mentioned this last week too, but once I got the shelves back here recently, I had several requests to show this off, so that's why I decided to do it on Rewind, and in excruciating detail this time. Okay, what are folks saying here in the comments? Nicholas Bodo, was the animated Justice League that bad? It's that bad. And part of the reason, too, you can look at my initial review on that with Austin, but part of the reason is because it's adapted real straight for the first half hour or so, or maybe 20, 25 minutes, and then it goes off the rails at one point, and it's really unfortunate. I've really put that out of my mind, but it's bad. AMC Comics, note to self, get on Discord. Thanks, man. Tom Paris, speaking of price tags, I hate taking them off my older Star Trek books, as they tend to take off the thin plastic layer. Yeah, it's obnoxious. I hate that too, and I also have a huge collection of those. Robert, while I think I respect Hulk 03 more than I love it, that'd be my review at this point too. Incredible Hulk is my favorite live-action version of the Hulk. I love Edward Norton in it. It's basically a big-budget version of the 80s TV show. Yep, that's right. And that was also kind of my review of that when I did the rewind on it. Okay, Bob the Hun, $5 super chat. Incredibles 2 feels more like an episode of a non-existent Incredibles TV series. I agree with that. That's a good call. Especially the climax More than a film, a good one, but not a film. Yeah, that's a good observation. I think I agree with that. Chewbacca's Lover, another $5 super chat. Thanks so very much. I'm glad somebody remembers the direct-to-video Marvel films. Nobody talks about them anymore. They went away quickly. Hope you do something on them. I will, and I've done a couple of them, as I alluded to earlier, but eventually I'll get back to those. And I know, I feel like I'm doing the DC direct-to-video movies all the time. Like, when I'm regularly doing Rewind, it seems like once every month or two I end up doing one of those. But there's so many of them, and I'm afraid that they'll really bunch up if I don't keep knocking those out. Okay, I'll read one or two more comments real quick. Tom says it's a pseudo superhero movie. He's probably talking about Jumper. Thomas Lowe also features Samuel L. Jackson as a villain. I didn't know that. He's talking about Jumper. AMC Comics, and don't forget, Cap, Jonah Hex was also Michael Fassbender's first superhero movie. I forgot he was in that, but now that you say that, it's all coming back to me. I've only seen it once, and I haven't done a rewind on it. I watched it when I was putting together and this never came fully to fruition. I put out a workbook edition and never made any more, but at one point I was working on a big trivia book for superhero movies, and I watched several things I'd never seen before, which I'm glad I did. This is all the way back in 2014, I think. I'm glad I did that because there are several movies that I had one to watch for, especially bad things, before I finally got to the rewind. So I kind of liked knowing what I was getting myself into and not having to deal with it for the first time on rewind. I had the same thing with Steel as well. Daniverse, Ultimate Avengers was one of your earliest reviews. It was, and really short. I think I did like a 5-minute review on that. Okay, speaking of animated and direct-to-video, here is the Justice League New Frontier Commemorative Edition Steelbook. It's really pretty, and if you like this movie at all, I highly recommend grabbing this. I think I may have bought this when I was at DJ's place. DJ is my chat moderator on the Captain Logan show, if you're not familiar, and he does all of our graphic design here on the channel. But anyway, I think I found this at a Best Buy when I was with him. I forget now, but yeah, this is lovely. I like it a lot. I haven't looked at any of the extra features, if there are any. I'm assuming there are, because this is, well, I say because it's 2 discs. It's Blu-ray and DVD. Which is weird, because this was at the tail end of anybody still making those, I think. But, yeah, so I've upgraded to that. And then here is the... Oh, weird that this also got a DVD, because this was pretty recent. Justice League Dark Apocalypse War, the really entertaining finale for the New 52-inspired DC direct-to-video continuity, and overall I really dislike most of that continuity, but it's bookended well. I did the Flashpoint movie, Flashpoint Paradox, not too long ago, and of course eventually I'll get to this, but I enjoyed this a lot. I've only seen that the one time, and apparently that Constantine short that we looked at last time, In the Seas, is a follow-up to that, which is just bizarre. Here is Justice League Dark, so that's the first of those. I guess, am I backwards here? I must be looking at these backwards. But this one was decent, too. This is fun. I don't like it, or I didn't like it as well as this, but oddly, their kind of occult, based on Vertigo stuff, was better than their regular DC superhero stuff. And then, yeah, I went all backwards here. Okay, well, whatever. Here is Justice League Crisis on 2 Earths. This is the Blu-ray for this, and I thought I had the DVD still as well. I don't know what I did with that. Maybe I did put that in my sell pile, but there were slightly different features on these, so I thought I was going to hang on to that, but maybe for some reason I decided to go ahead and put it in the sell pile. But the reason... Oh, you know what? I know what it was. It was that the DVD really didn't have anything that I didn't have already. The only thing it's got that the Blu-ray doesn't is some episodes, I think, from Justice League, and I have that whole box set, so there's no reason to hang on to it for that. The reason I wanted... Besides just, it's Blu-ray, so it probably looks nicer, but this over the DVD is because Eric gave me this years ago, because it has the unaired CW Aquaman pilot on it, which is how I watched that for the rewind. I did on that. And then here is Justice League Gods and Monsters, which is on DVD, which is a very solid Bruce Timm movie that is not in the Timmverse, and I recommend that if you've not seen it. I've only watched it the one time, but again, eventually I'll get to a rewind on that. You see how many of these things there are? And that's why I've got to do them so often. And then here is Zack Snyder's Justice League, again, just on DVD, because I thought I needed it for a video. But I will get... nobody freak out on this. Eventually I'll get a nicer copy of that. And now I've got these in the right order, but I showed them to you guys out of order. Okay, I think we're out of Justice League now. So yeah, a fair number of Justice League movies. Oh, we're not quite out of Justice League. There's still a couple more of those left. Okay, I'm gonna have to pace myself a little bit because I want to run through this stuff as quickly as possible, but I'm also talking very fast. And just like last week, it's an endurance test. Let's see what folks are saying in the comments. Thomas Lowe, did you keep count on the number of movies that came from the mailbag? No, I did not officially. There's at least a dozen. I could go through, though, at some point and tell you approximately how many, because I have a pretty good memory for which ones, not everybody that sent them, but which ones came from the P.O. box. Robert Wild, it's insane how many actors are in Jonah Hex who would later appear in other comic book movies. And to be fair, everybody shows up in comic book movies now, so if there are major actors in that, they're going to be in something later, so I guess that's not wholly remarkable, but it does feel weird when they're in something really atrocious like that, and then later on, they're in better things, with the exception of Megan Fox, of course, who just showed up in other bad superhero movies. Tom Paris, I'd love to do a similar thing with my video, with my Star Trek books, but I'm too shy, and there's too many as is. Yeah, and if I did that, it would just be me mostly reading titles, because I haven't read the majority of them, and I would like to read more of those. This has nothing to do with anything. I'm just talking to Tom Paris here, who is a Voyager character, but also apparently one of our viewers. And but anyway, every time not every time, but sometimes I'll sit down and try to read a Star Trek book, and I'll get like 50 pages in, and it will just seem very lame, or it's just a retread of another episode, or it's just really poorly written. So like there's some good ones, don't get me wrong, but too many of them, particularly in the TNG and later era, I find myself reading a little bit and putting it down and never finishing those. Anyway, AMC Comics, an interesting tidbit about Secret Origins, the Justice League pilot. Thanks for reminding me what that was called, by the way. And of course, it says it in the movie when you turn it on, the movie version, but it's not on the front, and you think it would be. Interesting tidbit is that the white aliens are technically not white Martians, even though they function the same. Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. I watched that again not too long ago, and I remember thinking about that too, where I'm like, they look like white Martians, but they make it pretty clear that they're not Martians. Chewbacca's Lover, you hadn't even read Ultimates yet when I did Ultimate Avengers. That's true. I wonder if having read it may have changed your mind on it. Yeah, good question. I might return to that again at some point. I don't know how much interest there would be in that, and I would probably need to give Ultimates and Ultimates 2 another read, because that's been several years ago now as well. I'm getting old, folks. Robert Wild, I also have the Steelbook on New Frontier, one of the best animated comic book adaptations ever made, in my opinion, and if memory serves, only the second one that they did, right, after Superman Doomsday. I'm pretty sure that was the very next one. AMC Comics, one must wonder why they title it Ultimate Avengers and not simply The Ultimates. Because of the whole Justice League Batman thing, probably, right? Marvel was probably thinking something similarly to what DC was with the release of DC direct-to-video movies, where if it doesn't have Avengers in the title, they're afraid it's not going to sell and people won't know what that is. Quite a few comments here, guys. Nicholas Bodo, very excited for your Snyder Justice League Rewind. I'm not looking forward to having to go so in-depth note-taking on a 4-hour movie, that's probably going to be a 2 or 3 week ordeal. Not that I'm going to podcast about it for that long, but just in the research for it. AMC Comics, while you're on the topic of DC animated films, the Deathstroke movie you looked at last time has Michael Chiklis as Deathstroke. I didn't know that. Cool. And Colin Salmon, Walter Zod is Wintergreed. Oh, that's funny. When he says Zod, he means Krypton. So Walter from Arrow, if you remember that character, who was married to Oliver Queen's mom. He's an actor I like quite a bit. He also plays Zod, which is something of a spoiler, because I don't think you're supposed to know that when he first shows up. I don't remember now. In Krypton. And, I mean, he's good casting, but that show is preposterous. Bob the Hun, $5 super chat. All the direct-to-DVD Marvel films also aired on Cartoon Network. Oh, all of them, okay. Like the Hellboy films. They were uncensored. All the blood and swearing left in. Crazy. That's interesting. Which suggests that that the TV versions would be uncensored, but some of the DVD versions would not be, which seems very backwards. Unless none of that was censored on the DVDs, because I was just thinking about the Batman Beyond thing. Maybe that didn't happen with any of the Marvel movies. Finally, Nicholas Bodo, thoughts on the premise of Paul Dano. Oh, you know what? Sorry, I'm not going to talk about that right now because it's just not. Well, you know what? I responded to something else that's not related to this earlier, so I'll just be fair since I started reading that. On the premise of Paul Dano and the author of Harlene's Black Label book, Riddler Year One, being a prequel to the Batman. I had not heard that, so I don't have any thoughts about that at the moment, but thanks for the information. All right. Here we go. Let me check to see how long I've been broadcasting. 41 minutes. We're not doing too bad. Here we go. Justice League Flashpoint Paradox. Got this on Blu-ray with DVD and Ultraviolet. I don't even know what Ultraviolet is, you guys. I have a few things that say that, and we don't do that anymore, I guess. I mentioned this last time, but you don't see... So let's see. Is that just... Okay, I guess that's just a streaming code, but they're calling it Ultraviolet. So I don't know what's special about that. You've got digital, and this calls it Ultraviolet. All right. Anyway, I was going to mention, I said last time, I've got a few things that are 3D, for a 3D TV, and I mentioned that I can't see in 3D because of the way my eyes work, so I've never bothered with, of course, anything like that, and I meant to look closer at the comments and see what people were saying about that, because I asked if anybody had watched anything like that and if it was worth it, and 3 or 4 people in the live comments last week said that they had seen movies that way and that they were actually kind of cool, so interesting. Anyway, so this was just Flashpoint Paradox on Blu-ray, and this was the Target Special Edition that looks the same as the regular Blu-ray DVD combo, but it includes a bonus digital comic, which is issue 1 of Flashpoint. Obviously, I didn't use that, but that happened to be the way that I bought it. Here is Justice League versus Teen Titans, which was, if memory serves, the first of the New 52 inspired continuity that I actually finally thought was pretty good after Flashpoint. And then they made a few more after that. Unfortunately, the second Teen Titans movie is atrocious, and we'll get to that into the T's because it starts with T, but that was Judas Contract, and it's not good. Anyway, Justice League Throne of Atlantis, which, if memory serves, I gave like a 1.5 on Rewind, I think. I also reviewed this in the 12 Days of Rewind, and it was really bad. I would really like to bring back the 12 Days of Rewind, especially now that I'm doing this unscripted, and it would be kind of easier to put those together. And I don't know if I'll have a year where I can do 12 live streams all in a row, especially up through Christmas when I'm traveling. I don't even know that it's possible, but I would really like to do that again. Here is JLA Adventures Trapped in Time. This is a movie that a lot of people don't know about and isn't talked about much because it was exclusively at Target. And when this says exclusively, it doesn't mean this edition, like that was the only place it was sold. It was made for Target. This is the only thing I can think of that I own that was made to be sold in one store. and it's not bad. I remember really enjoying this. It's pretty cartoony looking, and the story is a little cartoony, but it's somewhere in between the for adult PG-13 direct-to-video animated movies and something like the Lego animated movies. It's a little bit more sophisticated in its characterization than that, but it's also pretty Saturday morning. But I'll review that at some point. Here is the DVD version with the slipcase of Kick-Ass, which is a nice looking release. And here is Kick-Ass 2, which is a release. Hate that movie. Here is Kingsman Secret Service, which is, like I said last week, technically a comic book movie. I haven't bought the sequel. I kind of have more or less stopped on these movies that sort of are based on a comic but were more just developed as a comic and a movie simultaneously, or developed as a comic in order to make a movie. I don't think those have to count, especially with just the sheer amount of comic book movies there are, and funds and space. So I don't know. If I find these things cheap and I know that they technically count, I will continue to buy them, but I don't think for my purposes that it's necessary, and I'll never do a rewind on that because it's not superhero. Here is the Lego Batman movie, which I would like to upgrade to Blu-ray. I'm sure everybody's really sick of me saying that, but I still feel a little bit self-conscious showing you guys all these DVDs, and it's like, why aren't they Blu-rays? I explained in excruciating detail last week why that is, but I still feel funky about it. Anyway, that's the double disc. It's an okay release. There's nothing real super special about it. And the superior special features. I don't know what they're superior to. 4 new original animated shorts, 4 deleted scenes, 6 featurettes, and I've never watched the featurettes from this. It's too bad that it didn't have a commentary. But I want commentaries for everything. Alright, moving right along. So we'll just blow through the Lego movies because nobody but me seems to care about these. I actually really enjoy doing rewinds on these because it's kind of my humor sensibility. I like these a lot as parodies of particularly the more adult place that comics are in these days, and kind of just, you know, reminding us that we don't have to take superhero stuff so seriously, and a lot of them are pretty cleverly written. So this is Lego Batman the movie, DC Superheroes Unite, which was based on the Lego Batman 2 video game. I've done a rewind on that, which was much longer than you would have expected. This is Lego Batman Family Matters. I think these are just in order of more or less the subtitle alphabet, but there actually is an order to these, and I should probably put these in that because there are Justice League ones, there are Batman ones, and they come out in an order, and they actually do have kind of a loose continuity, and they reference each other a little bit. So there is an order to watch these in if you're at all interested. This is one of the later Batman ones that has Red Hood and the Rebirth Batman suit. I have not seen this since it came out. I remember literally nothing about it. Here is Aquaman Rage of Atlantis, just the regular bare bones DVD. Again, Lego. Here's Lego Flash. These are still kind of too much Justice League movies. It might have been nice if these had been more singular character pieces, but I did kind of appreciate that they didn't feel the need to put Justice League in all of the titles. Here is Justice League versus Bizarro League. That was the first of these. And Attack on the Legion of Doom, which is the best of these. And I have done a rewind now on both of those. And Justice League Gotham City Breakout, which I remember enjoying quite a bit. That kind of took, if memory serves, the same tack a little bit as Lego Batman 3, the video game where you got to play as the villains. I think that was the game. I never played all the way through that, but I started it a long time ago. Cosmic Clash with Brainiac, which I don't remember very much about, but it apparently has a Velociraptor in it, so I approve. And some of those I have on Blu-ray, some of them DVD. I guess it just depends on how I found them and what the price was. I don't know. I didn't feel the need to be super... one second here. It wasn't real important to me to be very consistent about that. When we hit the hour mark, I'll take a couple minutes break. And we got about 10 minutes, so we should be able to get through some of these comments and this stack by then. What's up, folks? Robert Wild said language cap. I'm not sure what I even said. What did I say? Robert Wild, in my opinion, the DC animated movies from the past decade haven't been nearly as good as their movies from the first several years. Hit and miss, but they've made a lot more of them, too, which is part of the problem. Like, I thought they were hit and miss at the beginning, and then they made a lot more bad ones later, but they also made a lot more of them in general, so you're right. Like, the ratio... Well, I say you're right. I'm not sure if the ratio is that different, ultimately, of good to bad, but it might be. I would have to do math. Danaverse, it's basically a modern-day Super Friends film. I think he's talking about that Target Justice League movie, probably. Austin Harn, I have a copy of Superman Returns that came with a disc that had 2 Superman radio adventures, but never an entire movie. Oh, interesting. What do you mean by movie, if we're talking about radio adventures? So it had the audio tracks for the radio adventures, or did you mean to say the serials? I wonder. I have a book of scripts from the old radio plays, but I don't think I have any of them on audio, on like disc or anything. Thomas Lowe, all these cool toys you have. Thanks. Plushie DX, Lego movies are great. Oh, good, I'm not alone. Jareth Gearhart, that's interesting. I actually bought JLA Trapped in Time at Walmart on Black Friday. Weird. So that makes me think that I was maybe wrong about that all along. The only place I ever saw it was Target. And when it said exclusively at Target, it didn't seem to come with anything extra. Because that sticker was also on another disc we saw earlier, that Flashpoint Paradox, I think, that was, what was exclusive about it was just a feature that it had that nothing else did, that wasn't anywhere else. But as far as I could tell, that disc was the same as it would be if it was sold anywhere else. So that's weird, I don't know. And I thought I remembered it being advertised that way too. So if you found that at Walmart, that's very interesting to me. And I mean, I've been wrong before. Bob Hun, $5 super chat. Gotham Knight, the anime, aired on, which I talked about last week, of course, aired on Cartoon Network uncensored with a TV-14 rating on Cartoon Network, not Adult Swim. Hoped my parents wouldn't notice. Interesting. Yeah, well, the joke was on you because it's not that great. Or maybe you love it. Let's see, what else? Austin Harm. I have so many rules to my film collection that help me streamline my superhero collection. Yeah, good idea. I probably don't have enough rules. It would be nice to streamline this more as far as, you know, all the DVDs and Blu-rays. It's kind of a cacophony, I guess, of different kinds of releases. But, you know, it would take a while, and it would take some cash to eventually get it all looking more or less the same. I've never really cared that much about that with any of my other collections, so I'm not in a giant hurry to do that. And then there's also things that will never be released on Blu-ray so you'll always have some kind of outliers that are, you know, kind of ugly ducklings in the collection. But I suppose you could put those all in one section if you eventually got to where it was, most of the boxes were all the same size. But anyway, Nicholas Bodo, what was the last good DC animated movie you've seen? The ones they've been putting out lately, for the most part, have been pretty good. I think the last one was probably Long Halloween. I mean, I liked that. I liked what was it, Soul of the Dragon, okay. Of course, the first one they did, Man of Tomorrow, the Superman movie, is wonderful, and I'm excited to see a sequel to that eventually. I started watching the Justice Society movie, which actually is why you didn't see that. I've got that out right now. I got interrupted the other day. This happens to me all the time. I watched half an hour of this maybe and had to turn it off, and I'll get back to it, but I wasn't real impressed with this. This is Justice Society World War II. So far, not digging on this yet, but hoping it turns around. I don't like that it's a time travel thing with Barry Allen from the future. I wish it was just the Justice Society in World War II. I'm finding that to be a massive letdown, and the Wonder Woman voice is kind of odd. But I'll talk about that eventually, or possibly pretty soon, actually. I started watching that to do a how I felt about on, because I've got several of these from the last couple of years that I just haven't caught up on. Anyway, okay, moving right along, we've got a couple more Lego things. So, DC Superhero Girls, we talked about the regular ones, or I mentioned them anyway last week. Here are the Lego ones. Yeah, they did both. They did just cartoon ones, and I think that also got a TV show in the same animation style, and there's Lego ones. So this one is Brain Drain. I've never seen these. This one is Supervillain High. Here is Logan. This is the Blu-ray and DVD combo. This is a really nice set. This is the one that I'm sure a Steelbook or some other really cool special edition came out for this that I've not seen, but this is a good release, and it has the noir version of the film, which is my preferred way to watch it, in glorious black and white. Here is the DVD for The Lone Ranger, which I reviewed a couple of months ago, and the only reason I got this on DVD instead of Blu-ray for that, because at this point it doesn't matter, I can watch it in any format. I couldn't find a Blu-ray for this on Amazon or anywhere else. I ended up having to... Did I get this for $10 or was it as much as 20? I can't remember, but this is the only way I could buy it right then, and I needed a way to watch it because it wasn't streaming anywhere. I was really surprised that that's not on Disney Plus right now. Here is The Losers. I don't know why my DVD copy of this says rental on the bottom. I don't know why I bought it like this, but at one point I was just buying up movies from a list that I found, or from a list of comic book movies. If I found it cheap at a store, I picked it up no matter what it looked like. I just wanted everything represented, so that's why that's the version of that I have. Unless, well, I was going to say unless this was one that somebody sent me in the mail, but now that I'm looking at the price tag sticker, I know where I bought this from, so I must have bought that. Here is the DVD version of League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, which is a cool enough looking box, but another thing that eventually I'll probably get on Blu-ray, and I still, to this day, have not done a rewind on this. There are at least 2, if not 3, Alan Moore movies like that that I have put off because I don't know the source material very well or at all, and I'd like to probably know it a little bit before I'm talking about it. So I was working on a V for Vendetta rewind at one point, and I was reading through the book, and it's very wordy, and it was just taking a long time, and I was in the middle of so much else. I kept getting distracted, so I've not gone back to that. I have watched that movie once now, and I'll just say right now, it's really good, but I need to, of course, get back to that, do another watch, get that review done. Here is just a 4 films favorites Jim Carrey collection that has The Mask on it. I want to get a Blu-ray copy of that at some point. Here is Masters of the Universe on DVD. I don't know if this has ever come out on Blu-ray, but I remember the transfer for this looking fine on DVD, and I have done a rewind on that. If you haven't seen that and you're interested in my thoughts on that, here is Megamind on just DVD, which I had for a long time in the collection before I finally saw it. People told me for years I needed to watch this, and I finally got a request for it for the 12 Days of Rewind and was forced to sit down and watch it. That was the last one I reviewed, but not the last one that aired. I did a couple of those out of order, but I like that quite a bit, and I haven't seen it in a long time. I'd like to do that again. Here is a B... This looks like a B-movie Iron Man ripoff called Metal Man. Not just an Iron Man ripoff, but clearly, obviously, from that movie specifically. And it is so super cheap, it's not even in a regular box. It's just in a flimsy cardboard case. Let's see if the disc is in it. Oh, yep, the disc is there. I found this for 99 cents somewhere, apparently. Maybe someday we'll do a blind commentary on that. Here are the Men in Black movies, and I should get a... I'm sure they put out some nice beefed up, like, trilogy box sets for this. I'll get that eventually. I don't have a copy of International. It sucks. I'm not in a hurry to get that, but it'll have to come back here eventually. Once again, of course, this is one of those things that's not a superhero movie, and people have asked me several times, actually, why I haven't done rewinds for the Men in Black movies. They're not superhero movies. Now, if I got a request for them to review as a science fiction, pardon me, that was weird, as a science fiction movie, I would be definitely excited to do these, or maybe at some point I'll do a poll for non-superhero things to do as a rewind, and I'll go ahead and knock these out, because I would like to talk about these more, but... Or at least that first one, because Men in Black 2 isn't great, and Men in Black 3 I've actually talked about quite a bit on the channel, but here's another thing I have in full screen for some stupid reason, so I'll have to get a nicer copy of that at some point, and then here is, once again, with Ultraviolet, here is the Blu-ray DVD combo for Men in Black 3, which I bought shortly after it came out. Here is Robert Townsend in Meteor Man. This came out in the mid-90s and was one of these kind of, I don't want to say indie, this was made by MGM, but this is one of these kind of generic one-off superhero things not based on anything, that was just a star vehicle for a relatively popular comedian right then. So that's what that is, and I've never seen that. I think that one actually was sent to me by a viewer. That might have been another David Crabtree thing. I can't remember. Anyway, okay, so I'm going to get these back on the shelf, and then I'm going to read some comments. Once again, we know the drill. Is everyone having a good time? I know I am. All right. Daniver says Meteor Man had a Marvel miniseries. Is the movie based on that, or is the miniseries based on the movie? Because if that's true, if it's based on a comic, I did not know that. Robert Wild, I do not miss the full screen DVD days, and I can't tell you the number of times I bought a DVD at like a flea market or something and didn't pay attention to that, and then put it in and it turned out to be full screen, and I was like, crap, I got the wrong one. I've definitely done that. Thomas Lowe, you have to return that movie, the one that's a rental. Yeah, I probably owe some defunct rental store like $4,000. Robert Wild, Justice Society World War II was a major letdown for me. I was really looking forward to that. Yeah, it looked really neat from the box and the previews and stuff, and I don't mind the look of it, but that script so far is not great. Thomas Lowe, why haven't they released the TMNT 2003 series on Blu-ray? I have so many questions about Ninja Turtles, and we'll probably get to this when I eventually get to Ninja Turtles, which is probably not going to happen tonight, but the TV shows. But I don't understand why, now that is streaming on, well, I mean, maybe that's the reason. Maybe it's the Disney Plus thing where Paramount is hoping that you'll get a subscription to Paramount Plus so that you can watch that show. But I was going to say, it's now finally available to watch, but you still can't buy it. And then conversely, the 87 series is still available. I don't know if it's in print, but it's still pretty easy to get that in hard copy, but it's never streamed anywhere. And the 2012 show, I think, is both streaming pretty readily, and you can also buy it, I think. But I don't know if there's a full box set for that. I have, I think, a season or two of that down here, but once again, I'll get rid of those if there's ever just a box set for the whole series. Austin Harn, the movie I talked about last week, Up, Up, and Away, also starred Robert Townsend. I'll just say his acting was better in Meteor Man. Interesting. Well, I'll do a rewind on that eventually. Okay, guys, I'm going to go ahead and take a 2 to 3 minute break, if you don't mind, and then let me go ahead and get a stack down here so that we can just get rolling when I come back. Put this in its proper order real quick. Okay, I am, like I said, going to take a break, and I'll see you guys in just about 3 to 4 minutes or so. If anybody comes in late and is wondering what's happening, just let them know that we're on a break, and I will be right back. Okay, folks, thanks a lot for bearing with me. Really appreciate it. Real quick, before we continue, I'd like to put in a quick plug for the 24-hour stream I'm going to be doing this week on the channel, Friday into Saturday. It starts Friday night at 10 o'clock Central Time, and it goes all the way to Saturday, 10 o'clock Central Time. That's right, I'm not going to sleep at all. I'll take some breaks here and there, of course, but no snoozing for me. I'm going to be watching a ridiculous number of DCAU episodes, chosen a lot of them by you guys, some by me. I might even pick some at random. I'm kicking around, maybe even at the end of it, just watching down the entire 13-episode season of the end of Justice League Unlimited, because I've never seen it, and I've heard it's really arcy. I don't know yet if I'm going to do that. I'm kicking it around, but I'm going to play things by ear a little bit. But anyway, so Batman Animated Series, Superman, Justice League Unlimited, Batman Beyond. We'll even have a little bit of Static Shock in there, which is a show I've barely seen, and it's gonna be a lot of fun. So come in for any of that you have a chance to, if you are so inclined. And now it's back to more superhero movies on DVD and Blu-ray, but too many of them on DVD. Okay, here is a movie called Mirage Man, which I know nothing about, and this was also sent to us, or sent to me by one of our viewers a long time ago, probably in the early 2010s. It looks like maybe a Spanish movie? I'm not sure. I would have to look this up and see what exactly that is. And then here is Stan Lee's Mosaic, just like The Condor. This is part of that same series. I don't know that they're in continuity or anything, but they put them out around the same time. They've got really similar logos, maybe by the same animation house. I've heard these are terrible. I've never watched them. Stuff I've meant to talk about for years. Okay, here is Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., another movie. So this is a TV movie with David Hasselhoff, which is somewhat infamous for its corniness and just the fact that Hasselhoff, of all people, is playing Nick Fury years before Sam Jackson got the part, of course, and since the whole world knew Nick Fury more often as a black man. This is based on more of the original Nick Fury, and it's interesting. This is a really rare DVD, tough to get your hands on. I got 2 copies of this sent to me at one point by a couple of our viewers, and thanks again to those guys. They were super cool to do that for me, and they just didn't know that the other one was sending it. But one of them was Bag Studios, and the other was Jeffrey Patron. And so yeah, I had 2 copies of this, and it is, like I said, not easy to get. I've looked this up recently. I can't find a copy of it anywhere that's not PAL region. And I started doing a rewind for this when I was still scripting, and I wrote a bunch of notes. I was all ready to do it, and then I think this was maybe the last one I was working on before I finally decided to commit to doing this as a podcast, as my family's gotten bigger and it's become impossible for me to do it the way I was doing it before, and I will try to get to this not too distant future. I actually put that on a poll for the Rewind Selection Board, which once again, you can become a part of at the $10 tier if you want to be a Rewind producer. Okay, this is still in the shrink wrap. I just bought this. I got a good price on this online, which is the only reason I've already got this. But here is the dreaded Morbius. Just get all your memes out right now, everybody. I got the Target special edition for this because I think it's hilarious that this got an exclusive fan art edition. Like, that really sums up this movie, right? Like, there are, for some reason, like, big fans of this movie that have kept it somehow going in the public consciousness, even though it did horrible in the theater and most people really hate it. And there's an edition with fan art on the cover. All right. It also had a steelbook, believe it or not, at Best Buy, even though it didn't make money. Here he is, Paperman, with Ryan Reynolds and Jeff Daniels and Emma Stone and Lisa Kudrow. What a cast list for an indie movie that I had never heard of before somebody sent me this in the mail, and another thing that I know nothing about that I will eventually do a rewind on. That is on DVD. Here is The Phantom. Remember this poster? If you're as old as I am, you saw this in the theater. Slam Evil. Paramount had no idea what to do with this movie in advertising, and that's part of why it failed. But it was also kind of a hard sell in the first place because, like I talked about in the Rewind years ago, this movie is basically trying to be authentic to movie serials, but also be a feature. And if you don't understand what it's doing, it's really corny. And if you do get what it's doing, it's corny on purpose, and I think it achieves everything it set out to achieve. But it's kind of understandable that people didn't watch that and like that movie. But and it also has that wonderful scene at the end where he takes his mask off and he no longer has the black eyeshadow surrounding his eyes. It's hilarious. Here's Planet Hulk, which I have seen now but not reviewed. I meant to do a rewind on this shortly after I did the comic review on the request, I think, with Austin and Dan, and time got away from me, and I didn't get around to sitting down and doing the review for this. This movie is just fine until the ending, which gets rid of the most interesting thing about Planet Hulk. It's all about that ending, and they just didn't do it, so that was really unfortunate. That's my review. I've done it now. Ladies and gentlemen, we're good. Here is Power Rangers the movie, the 95 film on DVD. I would like to get this on Blu-ray at some point, of course, and it has some cooler covers, I think, on Blu-ray. I have the steelbook for the Power Rangers 2017 movie. It's a pretty cool looking steelbook. This is not a great movie, of course, but I've made some exceptions for some things that are just in franchises that I really like, even if the movie itself is not great, and if the release itself is cool. This is a really good looking steelbook. What I don't like about this, real quick, once again, I like it when the discs have art on them. It would have been nice if it was different art on the two discs, but I guess, I say that. One's a Blu-ray and one's a DVD. I guess this was a DVD combo. Again, we don't do these anymore, but I guess back then there were still a few that were. No, that's not really a fair point, I suppose, that, it's the same movie on two discs, it's the same art, but I do like it when these things have cool art in the background like that behind the discs. But anyway, what's annoying about this is that, once again, it comes with something extra that doesn't fit in the case it came in, so what's the point? It came with, and I'm not getting rid of this just for the sake of completion, even though I have the regular-sized comic for this, and I'm going to read it like this. I don't know that I would find cause to read this again anyway. It was okay, but this was the Boom sequel to the movie Aftershock, which is the only other story that was ever told in this continuity as far as I know. It had okay art. It wasn't a terrible story, but it doesn't fit in the steelbook, so you have to just kind of keep it with it. Maybe I should put like a rubber band around it at some point or something. It's goofy. I hate stuff like that. Another movie that, of course, I would really like to get on Blu-ray eventually is the Powerpuff Girls movie, which I seem to be very alone in loving, and this is one of my favorite superhero movies. But anyway, I've got the original weird clamshell, what do you call these the cases, where it's got the flap that pops open. I hate these. And it's just kind of a cardboard case. And then we've got Priest. I've never seen this. This is apparently based on a comic book. I hate it when this kind of thing is set on the back of boxes. Based on the acclaimed graphic novel that, I've never heard of, so I'm sure it was acclaimed by somebody. But was Priest a big book? I guess, maybe. I don't know. I didn't know about that until this movie happened. But I was just trying to see who was in this. Nobody I really... Oh, Paul Bettany's in this. Oh, and Carl Urban's in this too. Okay, well, I'll watch that eventually. I'm sure that's great based on the box. And then here is a DVD copy of the Dolph Lundgren Punisher, which I got when I did the rewind for that 150 years ago. Here is the Tom Jane Punisher, which really deserved sequels, and that's also on DVD. And here is Punisher Warzone, which is the kind of soft reboot sequel to this, I guess. It kind of doesn't matter that this exists, so I don't know if they were supposed to be in the same continuity or not. I don't think it knows either, and it was not great, but just okay. And then here is Freedom Fighters The Ray, which is one of the worst things I've ever seen. It just occurred to me that I almost said, I've never seen this. Yes, I have, and it was dreadful, and nobody watched this. Just trust me on that. This is an animated movie based on, and I guess set technically in the CW Arrowverse, and it was god-awful, enough said. Here is the special edition of Red. I don't know what's special about it. It has an audio commentary with retired CIA field officer Robert Baer. Okay, and no one who worked on the movie, just a CIA officer. These days, we just do that on YouTube, right? Where it's like, retired CIA officer responds to or reacts to Red. But back then, you had to listen to a whole commentary with the guy. Okay, I might listen to that at some point. Maybe it's really interesting. I'm sure there's a more special edition of this on Blu-ray or somewhere. And then here's Red 2. Red I've seen, and I remember liking okay, but not a lot of it's coming to me right now because it was like a decade ago. Red 2, I don't think I ever watched. I'm actually not sure. But apparently Catherine Zeta-Jones is in it, and I didn't realize that. Was she in the first one? I don't think she was. I don't remember. John Malkovich, Anthony Hopkins is in both of these, right? No, maybe he's not. I don't even remember. I don't remember who's in Red. Okay, I'm going to get these back on the shelf. Some of this is a walk down memory lane, and some of this is a walk down somebody else's memory lane. Like folks in the comments. I remember that, but Cap doesn't, even though he owns it and has probably had it for 10 years. Why don't you quit being lazy and watch all your superhero movies? I'm so lazy because I don't watch enough superhero movies. I'm such a fraud. I've got a whole show about this. I've got tons and tons of movies I've never seen. That just goes to show the sheer number of these things there are now. And it's made me insane. AMC Comics Cap, it stinks and I don't like it. Exactly. Oh no, we've got sex bots again. Well, once again, I need to get some mods so that I'm not modding my own video when I'm running back and forth to the machine. Jareth Gearhart, you're right, Cap. I looked up the movie. Apparently, Warner Brothers was just trying to get rid of them on Black Friday, I guess. I know I bought it there for only $2. Weird. He's talking about that Trapped in Time Justice League movie. I knew you were making me think I'd gone crazy because I knew that only came out for Target. Looks like it was a time exclusive for Target for 5 months, actually. Interesting. Okay. AMC Comics, what about Zeta Project? I don't know if there's any place to watch Zeta Project. I know only the first season ever released on DVD. I don't have it, and I don't think HBO Max has it. If it does, I will consider doing that. It is, because of bandwidth and stuff, sometimes we have technical issues. If I've got, because I'm going to have some remote help on Skype for that. Some of it I'll be myself, and some of it I'll have co-host. And when I have Skype running and I'm trying to stream video and I'm streaming on YouTube, it's usually just too much and the picture stalls out a lot. So I was going to try to do everything on disc so we didn't have to worry about that, which is why I'm limiting Static Shock, because I don't own that either. And you can get that on DVD, but there's not a singular box set, and the individual sets, I think getting it all together would cost me about $100 right now. And I kind of wanted to wait and see if eventually it gets a Blu-ray release for a full box. I feel pretty weird spending that much and then it comes out cheaper later and it's the whole series and it's nicer transfers. So I kind of want to wait on it, but because somebody a couple weeks ago mentioned that to me, where they're, well, you can get it on DVD. Yeah, I can, but I don't know if I want to yet. Bob the Hun, $5 super chat. Mosaic and the Condor also aired on Cartoon Network Uncensored. He is our what aired on Cartoon Network expert this evening. The former had a chick in her underwear. The latter had a near sex scene, PG-13 level. yeah, I guess they were willing to air those things. Chihuahua's Lover, $5 super chat. The Mosaic's protagonist is a complete Buffy ripoff. Pardon me. She's blonde, talks just like her, acts just like her, not exaggerating, literally the same character. Well, and that's kind of an archetype, but I bet you're right about that. Jareth Gerhardt, I call it a snapcase. I used to too, now that you say that, but I haven't had cause to call it anything for years, so thanks for bringing that up. Chihuahua's Lover, Catherine Zeta-Jones, was not in the first Red. Robert Wilde, Captain Logan, what kind of a world do we live in where a man dressed as a ray gets all my press? Okay, moving right along, here is I'm going to assume... Okay, so I thought this was a motion comic. I think this is a motion comic. This is Red... Sorry, I'm not going to show you what I'm looking at. Red Sonja, Queen of Plagues. This just looked like a direct-to-video animated movie that was packaged the same way the DC ones are. And then I looked at the top and I was like, that's weird that the credits are Gail Simone and Walter Giovanni. And I'm like, okay, this must be a motion comic. But yeah, I've never taken a look at that. And I don't really know anything about Red Sonja. I know Gail Simone had a pretty well-liked run with her, and that's probably what that is. Here is the unfortunate R.I.P.D. on Blu-ray. I got this stupid cheap somewhere, so I went ahead and threw it in the collection. It's based on a comic. I don't know if it's based on a comic anybody's ever read, but I saw that in the theater with Brandon, and that was unfortunate. I'll never understand why he flipped the sign green on that, and I will make fun of him till the end of time about that. Here is Road to Perdition in full screen, so I'll have to update that at some point. I haven't seen this in a long time. I don't remember a lot about this, but I remember liking it fine. And this is also based on a graphic novel. And here are the RoboCops. So, recently there was a really nice 4K release for RoboCop that has a really cool kick-ass cover, and I'm going to get that eventually, and I will upgrade at least the first RoboCop to that, and I haven't gotten around to buying that yet. There's also a steelbook that I think is that release and has all the features and stuff, which I may get. And then here's RoboCop 2 and 3. Maybe there is a nice collection of these that I'll get at some point and just duplicate RoboCop. I don't know, because I don't like these original MGM releases. I talked about this on the back of the box video. The back of some of these boxes are just impossible to read, and not that I need to read them, but they just look terrible, and I want better releases. That's just how I feel about it. Here's Rocketeer on DVD. Is it full screen? I hope not. I don't think so. But this is just the bare bones original release. I say bare bones. Special feature. Theatrical trailer. Yep, pretty bare bones. So, another thing I'll upgrade eventually. Here is Scooby-Doo meets Batman. I have, believe it or not, done a rewind on these cartoons. Both of the episodes from... What was that called? I'm having to switch gears and remember everything I've ever known about superhero movies tonight. The Scooby-Doo... I forget what it was called. There was a show where they did team-ups with different celebrities and other cartoon characters. And they, not too long ago, did another one of those that was pretty cool. I liked the Weird Al episode. I think there was a Batman episode. But anyway, it was, what was it, the new Scooby-Doo movies? Was that what it was called? Anyway, and then Scooby-Doo and Batman Brave and the Bold, which is awesome, and everybody should watch this. It's really neat. And then we have Secret Origins, the story of DC Comics, narrated by Ryan Reynolds, which I think I watched when it came out. This aired somewhere. I think this was on TV initially, maybe. Or I might be conflating this with another documentary. I don't remember. I do have several documentaries up here. There's several more that have either never been released that I hope do eventually, or that have and I just haven't gotten around to getting. But most of this kind of stuff I've seen at least once, and I'd like to do maybe a top 10 of those at some point. I don't feel the need to review documentaries on Rewind because I don't think there would be enough to talk about with them, but it might be nice to do a list in case you haven't seen some of these. And then here is the Bare Bones Shadow DVD, which I'll upgrade at some point. Here is Michelle Yeoh in Silverhawk. So this is not a American release, but probably something that I'll do. Was this a Oh, and Michael Jai White's in this too. I forgot about that. I've never seen this. Tom sent me this, T-Edge 1. And he's been begging me to do something on this forever. I will probably do a rewind of this movie, especially because he gave me this a long time ago and I still haven't looked at it. But I think he wanted me to do a blind commentary. I might do that at some point and then do a rewind down the road. I don't know. But it would be interesting, especially after she just rocked my socks off in Everything Everywhere All at Once. And I mean, it's not her fault, but she made me angry in Discovery and then really redeemed herself in Everything Everywhere All at Once. So it would be more fun now to watch this now that I've seen her in something more recently that I liked a lot. I have the Target exclusive edition of Shang-Chi, another one of these kind of fold-out case things that has all the characters on it, and it's a nice looking release. It has this thing with the rings on it. And I hate the way they did the rings in that movie, but these look neat. Oh, this is another one of those things where we had this last week with Eternals, I think, where it was like, here's these weird stand-up things, and then it has a little stand on the back that you can... Does anybody display these? I think it would be a little bit silly to actually display that. Look at me. I've got Shang-Chi, and he's all silvery and flashy. Okay. Let's put this nonsense away. Oh, I don't even know if I can get this back in here. Why did I do that? Okay, there we go. Good enough. Okay, moving right along. And then we have Shazam! What do I have here? I have the regular Blu-ray that has a lenticular cover that flashes back and forth. This is obligatory, but cool. This is what you have to do with this, right? Where can you see that on camera? Does it actually show him flipping back and forth from the kid to Shazam? So that's kind of neat. And I still have this in the shrink wrap. I've never opened this. I have not looked at this movie since it came out in the theater, and at some point I will look at the special features. That is my endless refrain. We're in the S's, you guys. I feel like we're finally making time here a little bit. I feel like I'm on the highway trying to get to Texas or Florida somewhere in record time. Okay. Poppin' everything. What is happening in the comments? The new Scooby-Doo movies. Yeah, it took me forever to come up with that, Robert Wilde, but I did. Nicholas Bodo is R.I.P.D. a wannabe MIB. Yeah, it kind of is. But it's horribly written, and those two actors had no chemistry together, and yeah, it was really rough, but it was like a ghost not going to the afterlife thing, and it was the rest in peace department. Yeah. And I guess they had to go grab ghosts that were supposed to cross over, or demons, or something. I'm pretty sure it was ghosts. I forget, but it was kind of like Men in Black instead of Ghostbusters, I guess, was the idea. Jareth Gearhart, there is a Blu-ray set of the RoboCop films. Okay, I'll need to get both of those at some point. Chewbacca's Lover, I want you to talk about documentaries, especially the '03 one, narrated by Keith David, that I saw way too young. Yeah, I would like to talk about some of that stuff eventually, especially because some of it just gets really quaint when, just like me back then, those guys writing and narrating those documentaries thought that they were in the heyday of superhero movies, and they had no idea what was coming. We thought it was the onslaught, and it really was just the calm before the storm, or it was the lightning rod that predicted the storm, however you want to look at it. All right, moving right along, we've got Sin City on DVD, and this is still a nice looking release with the slipcover. Another thing I'd like to upgrade at some point and I'd like to get a really nice, I'm sure there's a steelbook for this. I don't know how hard that would be to get now, but I'd like to get something like that eventually for my wife, because she just adores this movie. And Sarah is not into really ultra violent, edgy, hard R stuff, but she loves that movie. And A Dame to Kill For as well, which I have also on DVD in it with a very similar slipcover. So I do appreciate the fact that even though these came out 10 years apart from each other, they have really consistent releases. That's pretty cool. And I like this better than a lot of people did, even if that last vignette is really poorly written. But oh boy, Joseph Gordon-Levitt is great in that. Here is the DVD for Sky High, which was a movie that really surprised me when I had to do the rewind, and I liked it a lot. Here is Son of the Mask, which is a movie that surprised me also in a different way, which I expected to hate, and then I loathed. I don't even want to have that in my hand for too long. Somebody last week asked, what movie do you kind of feel embarrassed for or wish you didn't have to have in your collection? You're looking at it. It's right here. I'm putting it in front of another movie, so I don't have to touch it as much. Okay. Ugh. Here is the old DVD release from Spawn, which also has, what do we call it? A snap case? Yeah, listen to that. Remember that sound? Yeah, it's a snap case. And this was a transfer directly from the Laserdisc, which I would actually like to get at some point because I recently got a Laserdisc player and I haven't messed with it yet, but I need to go out and get me a couple of Laserdiscs. I've never watched one. I've never dealt with a movie that way. What I really want is to get some movie that I like a lot that forces you in the middle to flip the disc over, because I've never had to do that, and I want to have that experience. And thanks a bunch to my buddy Adam, who used to do Star Trek Club with me, and hopefully eventually will again, if we can ever find the time to bring that back, who gave me his old Laserdisc player. What a guy. He got another one, and he gave me that one. What a nice guy. Here is the specials with Jamie Kennedy and Rob Lowe. Not more Jamie Kennedy, no! I have a feeling if I watched this, I'd probably have a similar relationship to it with Son of the Mask, where I wouldn't want to hold it too long or be afraid that it would burn my fingers. But maybe not. Maybe this is okay. Who knows? Who knows? Nothing too hard against Jamie Kennedy. I don't, know the man personally or anything. I just don't like anything I've ever seen him in. Here is my collection of the Spider-Man movies. So we're getting into Spider-Man finally. Here we go. Here comes more heavy hitter stuff. This is, so I adore these collections. They're wonderful. This is how I have these movies now. So this is the Raimi trilogy with a wonderful information booklet at the beginning with, I think, some interview material with Sam Raimi and just a lot of discussion about behind the scenes. It's really good for this kind of thing. And I wanted to say Target exclusive. I don't think these were. These were probably sold everywhere. But I just really like what the covers look like, and I like the presentation of these. And each of the discs is in one of these little cases inside this booklet, and then there is a bonus disc that I think these all have some extra features on them. I haven't looked through them real thoroughly, and then I have the same thing for the Amazing Spider-Man movies, and I kind of hope, I'm probably hoping against hope, but I would love it if the Homecoming trilogy also got one of these. That would be neat to be able to put all three of these next to each other. Even though we're going to get more Spider-Man movies in MCU, chances are, like, whether the deal with Sony sticks around or not, chances are you'll have the current iteration in 3 more movies, I think. Because I think if it went back to Sony, they would probably still hang on to Tom Holland. But who knows what'll happen with that. All signs right now are pointing to he'll probably stay in MCU and he'll probably get a couple more movies. But I'm still suspicious of it. Anyway, speaking of Homecoming, I also have a release like that just for that movie, and this one is pretty cool looking. I'm glad it got this presentation, because I don't love the sequels to this, but I really like this movie, and despite it not going the direction I feel like it ought to have, and despite that sequel not getting enough done, and it feels kind of throwaway, that first sequel, it is still my favorite live-action Spider-Man movie, I think. So it's got let's see what's in here. It's got a little comic book. These are always weird. Like, I don't want to read anything this small, but whatever. And I just like the presentation of this. It's got its own bonus disc. Again, I haven't looked at a lot of recent special features for things, so it's when I finally start tearing into some of this, it's going to be like Christmas, because these are things, like I said last week, that I bought years ago, and I'll finally sit down and actually enjoy them. They've just kind of sat on a shelf all this time. And a lot of this stuff, I don't end up looking at the special features until I finally do the rewind on it, and this is really long overdue. But I just like the presentation with all of, like, the math and the notes and the margins and stuff, like it comes in a notebook that Peter is drawing on. Here is the release that I got for Into the Spider-Verse. There's another one of those things that has an art book that doesn't really fit in the box. Stop it. I hate that. Why can't these all be this kind of thing where the art book is, or I should say these, where the art book is just inside of the box itself, like connected to it. Just make it all one piece. I don't know. It's annoying. But I think this was also probably a Target exclusive with an art book. So that's cool. And I've thumbed through that, but I haven't looked at a lot of the features on that either. Love that movie, of course. And then, I don't know why Far From Home is out of order, but sorry. There's Far From Home. I have that too. I have not, and I just have the regular Blu-ray with the DVD. Wow. That was a combo back then too. I know Marvel has stopped that since then. Or I at least haven't seen those in a while. Anyway, I have not bought No Way Home yet. I almost pulled the trigger on it a couple of weeks ago, and I was buying too much. I'd spent too much money. I was like, I'll wait on it. But there's a couple of cool special releases for that I kind of want to get. And there's actually one with really neat art that was a collection of all three of them that I may go ahead and get. I'll keep at least my special edition for Homecoming if I do that, but I'm more likely to try to get a Steelbook or one of the Target exclusives if I can still get my hands on it. Here is Spider-Man Origins of a Superhero, which was a bonus disc. This has been a long time, that either came with Spider-Man 2, and again, I'm getting rid of the DVD for that because I don't need it anymore, and it was just kind of the bare bones release. I will say, I've still got the old Spider-Man double disc down here that I'm back and forth on whether or not I'm going to keep, just because I'm kind of nostalgic for the menus. I don't know, but I don't need it. I don't know when I'm actually going to look at the menus again. And also, they're kind of hard to tile around on. It's a little bit hard to tell where the next button is supposed to be. I digress. Anyway, this had a pretty good featurette on the black costume, and I really thought it would be about the black costume and Venom, since it was setting up Spider-Man 3. Like, you know, I said maybe it came with a release of 2. I don't think it did. I think this came out in anticipation of 3. So it's really weird to have a thing called a bonus disc that you buy by itself, and I could be completely wrong about this. You know what? I must be, because this says not rated, and it doesn't have a barcode, which suggests that it must have come in a release. So maybe there was like a special edition of Spider-Man 2 that this came with that was just the regular double disc, but you also got this extra whole case? I don't remember. I mean, it's been, 20 years now since I bought this. I'm not sure. Anyway, I do recommend that featurette, though. It's really good. But it was weird to get to the end of that, and Venom isn't even mentioned. Like, it's just about the black costume in comics. But real thorough. There's a lot of stuff about McFarlane there, I think. It's pretty cool. And then here is The Spirit on just DVD, which is a movie that my wife loves, and absolutely nobody else on the planet does, although I enjoy it more than you think a person would. I was pretty positive on it in the rewind. It's fun as a parody. The question is, it's a parody of what exactly? Okay, let's see if I can get all this stuff back up on the shelf. Still quite a bit of S left to go, but we did get all the way through Spider-Man. So that's exciting. And I want to check and see once again how long we've been broadcasting. Okay, guys, we've got 20 minutes. So, obviously, this is going to take one more video, definitely. I'm not going to let it take 4. We'll do this in one more video. And we'll see how close we can get to the end of the alphabet. We've got a shelf and a half. I am thinking about taking it all the way to Z, even if I have to take an extra 15-20 minutes tonight. If I can stand it, I'm doing okay. And then do just TV next time? I guess we'll find out. AMC Comics, have you seen the more fun stuff version yet? I didn't feel the need to go to the theater to see that, because it didn't sound like there was anything super substantial there, and all those scenes, I think, got put on YouTube. I haven't looked at them. I kind of want to see if they end up doing a release with it, but I think there's precedent. I can't remember what the movie was. Maybe it was Endgame? No, I don't think it was. I forget. I've been told that there was another Marvel movie that did that, where it put extra scenes in the theater for a re-release, but then it never went to DVD, or it never went to video or streaming. So hopefully that doesn't happen with that. Chewbacca's Lover, do you have the mini comic that came with Spider-Man 3? It comes with a really interesting Stan Lee interview that you should read. I don't think so. Let me see if I can find, because that release doesn't have it. I've got just the regular DVD release for that. No, I don't. I was selling this because it's just bare bones, and I've already got it in a nicer release. So yeah, I'm not sure what release that had that. Let's see what else folks are saying here. AMC Comics, that's the collection that has the editor's edition of Spider-Man 3. That's right, yeah, and we reviewed that on the channel. Robert Wildcat, have you seen Scream? Jamie Kennedy was great in that. I mean, it's been forever, and I totally forgot he was in that. Bob the Hun, you need to review Comic Book Superheroes Unmasked. You actually could get a full rewind out of that one. There's a lot of stuff to analyze. I am taking a picture of my screen to keep your comment to consider doing that. Robert Wild, Son of the Mask, the only thing Cap hates more than Brandon. That's not true. There's several more things in that list before we get... No, I'm kidding. I'm completely kidding. He's not going to watch this, though, so I don't have to lie. No, I'm kidding, though. I'm completely kidding. The new show is And Guess Who, but the original was the new Scooby movies. Yes, that is right. I didn't remember what the name of that new show was, though, but I enjoyed what I saw of it. Jar Jar Ed, Deadpool's PG-13 edit, Once Upon a Deadpool, is the one you're talking about. No, it's not. That they did release. I've got it. We talked about that last week. No, there's some MCU movie that apparently got another theatrical release shortly after its first run that did the same thing, the More Fun, which I hate that name, the More Fun Stuff edition of No Way Home did, that only added, a few minutes of footage, 7, 10, 11 minutes, whatever, that apparently didn't get a home release. But I don't know how true that is. Austin maybe told me that. I can't remember. This is all secondhand hearsay. I'm not sure if that's true. Austin Harn, I have the Raimi trilogy in their original releases. I don't know if I want to pull the trigger on the Blu-ray for just the Spider-Man 3 Editor's Edition. If that's all you were buying it for, and I mean, if you really wanted to see it, sure, but if you don't care enough about that, it's got mostly all the same features that the original release did. There's a bonus disc. I'm not totally sure what's on it for all the movies, but I think it's worth it just for how pretty it looks on a shelf, and it's just a lot of reverence for that material in the release. Let's keep going. Okay, so I need to put the trilogy of these together, but I don't have Glass yet. So here is Split, which I was shocked when I saw this in the theater and realized in the moment, spoiler alert for anybody that doesn't know about this at this point, but I'm sure everybody does, when Bruce Willis shows up at the end of this and it turns out that it is a backdoor sequel to Unbreakable, the first thing I thought of in my brain while I was watching this in the theater was, wow, this is going to have to go on the superhero shelf. That's crazy. So I have the Blu-ray DVD combo of that has a pseudo-lenticular cover just with the broken pieces of glass there, which is kind of cool. I hated Glass. I've not been in a hurry to buy that, but I do like Split quite a bit, and I started taking notes for a rewind for that as Glass came out. I got halfway through my notes and my research for that movie and didn't quite get it finished and didn't get it written. I think I even started writing it, now that I'm thinking about it, before I went and saw Glass. And I hated Glass so much that I could not bring myself to go back and write about Split. it broke my brain. I didn't want to do it, so I quit. And at some point, of course, I'll get back to it, and I'll do the Unscripted podcast version for that. Here is Stan Lee's Mutants, Monsters, and Marvels, an interview with Kevin Smith that I highly recommend. And this is another kind of time capsule where it felt like we were in the beginnings of this huge new age for superhero movies, and we had no idea what was coming just a few years later with Dark Knight and Iron Man. But there is some neat history, and we will find out later on maybe a little bit of revisionist history here and there from Stan Lee when you hear other people that he worked with at Marvel talk. But anyway, it's a really fun interview, and it's simpler times, and there are two different interviews here. For some reason, they broke it up that way, and one is exclusively about Spider-Man. I've actually seen this several times, and the other one is about everything else that he did at Marvel. And the special features are cool because there is a nice featurette with an interview with Stan Lee's wife and a tour of their home, which is cool. And then here is the DVD release, and I think the only release, I don't think this has been on Blu-ray, of Steel, which I had to buy when I did the Rewind last year. Here is the extended cut for Suicide Squad. I don't have the theatrical cut for this, and I try to get all the cuts that are available for each movie, and it's annoying that so many of these have had to have extended and director's cuts, but I will try to get the theatrical version of this at some point. If I run into it, I'll get it. It's not a priority. Here is the Target exclusive for the Suicide Squad, which I bought because I just think it looks really cool. It's pretty. I've only seen this movie one time. I was kind of lukewarm on it. I really disliked the first hour, and then it really won me over in the second hour, but I was so put off by it initially that I haven't been able to bring myself to go back and look at it. This one is annoying because you have to kind of almost bend it and mess it up to get it open from the top or the bottom. So I don't love that. But let's pop this open and see what's in it, shall we? So it has the regular Blu-ray. I did get this out of the shrink wrap, even though I haven't watched it yet. And that's what the disc looks like. And then okay, this I haven't taken out of the shrink wrap yet. But it comes with a booklet of some kind. I'm assuming probably an art book. I'm not going to waste your time to open this right now unless it'll come out real easy. Nah, I want to grab a pair of scissors or something so that I don't ruin it because it's paper and it's flimsy and it's not very thick. So we're not going to mess with that right now, but that's what it looks like. And most of these don't come in this kind of a box. I'm trying to make sure and get this back in the way it was. Yeah, there we go. So, interesting presentation. I think this was the Target exclusive. Maybe this was sold in some other places, but that was a special edition. And here is Suicide Squad Hell to Pay, which is excellent. This is another DC direct-to-video animated feature. I wish there was a faster, or a way to say that in fewer words. That is, I believe, still set in the DC New 52 based on, anyway, 52 continuity, and if it is, it's the best of those. This was R-rated, I think, and yeah, and pretty hard R, actually, but I really enjoyed it. Here is Super, which is, of course, the famous or infamous, depending on who you talk to, James Gunn movie, which I didn't like at all. It's got some merits, but overall, it really rubbed me the wrong way. I know people love this movie. Good for you, obviously you're entitled, but this is not my thing, and I did a rewind on this a few years ago if you want to hear me kind of shiver with that. Here's Super Buddies, which I shivered for a different reason when I did the review, and this is too nice of a release for what it is, but that's another Blu-ray with a slipcase and a DVD. And then I have a movie, I think this is another thing that somebody sent me in the mail probably 1.5 million years. Oh, it is, because it still has... Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. You know who this came from? Should I read it? Should I read it on air? I'm thinking about it. This is from Chile Boom. And if memory serves, if I'm remembering this correctly, I believe Chile Boom, Chilebeoam, is DJ, is my current chat moderator on the Captain Logan show and our official graphic designer. And he's been watching us forever. So this is back in like 2011, 2012. He was a kid. And he sent me this and maybe some other things. Yeah. So some of the movies that I've been through that I said came in the mail came from him. I'm going to read this real quick. Here are some movies for you to review on Superhero Rewind. I hope you don't have any of these yet. I don't think I've reviewed any of them yet on Rewind. Sorry about that, DJ. I'm pretty sure Chile Bohm is DJ. He mentioned that on the show not too long ago. I checked your superhero movie list before I shipped them, so hopefully nothing's changed. I feel compelled to warn you, some of these are pretty awful. Some are quite good, though. I actually own Paperman and Griff the Invisible. Yeah, so he sent those too. I just thought it would be easier to send you new copies, what a guy, so you wouldn't have to worry about shipping them back to me and everything. Thanks so much, you guys, for many hours of entertainment. If you ever have any spare time and you feel like watching some superhero music videos, feel free to check out my channel. I just made a video for a Smallville zombie episode of all things. If memory serves, that is DJ, and that's why I wanted to read that. That's crazy. I'm glad I hung on to that. Wow, things really change, don't they? And then here is the bare bones DVD for Supergirl, which I can't remember if that is in the Superman box set or not. I don't think it is, actually. I think that's just the Superman movies. But yeah, not a great looking box. Maybe there's a nicer looking release of that on Blu-ray. I'm not sure. Here is Super Guy Behind the Cape, another indie superhero movie that was at some film festival, the River Run International Film Festival, whatever that is. Again, a release that kind of looks like it came out on somebody's out of somebody's basement. So at some point, I'll have to take a look at that. And here is the extended edition of Superhero Movie, which I have only reviewed as a joke and will probably never revisit. This is the extended edition, longer, funnier, and here I'm going to try to take this tag off so we can see what the rest of this lie is. Well, it is longer, so that's not a lie. And much... I can't tell what the rest of this says because I can't get it. And I threw it. Hold on. So, I was talking about this earlier and how hard some of these stickers are to get off. Yeah, that's one of them. So, it's much something. I don't know what. But it's probably lying because that movie's terrible. But it has a slipcase in the early days when we didn't have as many of those. So, isn't that wonderful? Okay, we are getting to my Superman DVD box set, which I'd like to eventually upgrade to Blu-ray, just like with so many things, partly for obvious reasons, and partly because mine's a little beat up, but I've always really liked this set, and it's just nuts how much stuff was in that. They put this out for the release of Superman Returns, which is why it's that particular logo, and it's got a bunch of extra stuff in it. I think maybe even including the Fleischer cartoons? I'm not sure. I can't remember. I've got those in at least one other spot, too, though. Okay. How much time have we got here? Okay, so we would have 5 minutes left if we were going to stop at 2 hours. I am thinking about continuing and just trying to blow through as much of the rest of this as I can stand on 2 feet and do. Although, I say that, I don't think it's going to take 2 hours to get through TV shows. That is probably like a half-hour video, now that I'm looking at it. Maybe. Well, it's me. I don't know. But like I'm looking at this, I'm like, the Super Friends, that's not going to take very long. It's several box sets, but I don't have anything to say about those. So, yeah, I think I am going to cap it off at 2 hours now that I'm saying that. I'll do this stack and then I'll quit. How about that? I'm flying by the seat of my pants, folks. Jar Jar Ed, $5 super chat. Thank you. Do you have the extended cut DVD of the Thomas Jane Punisher movie? Mine, I don't think was a director's cut or an extended cut. Let me look. No. And I don't think I realized, I either didn't realize or I'd forgotten that it did have a extended cut. So I'm also going to copy my screen on that. And thanks for letting me know about that. Yeah, I'm always improving this. It's always changing. There's so much to do. There's so much to do and so little time. Robert Wilde, Hell to Pay was very good. Easily one of the best New 52 animated movies. So it was New 52. I thought so. I also love James Gunn's The Suicide Squad. Verdict for me is still out on that. I only watched it once, and it wasn't my thing. I appreciated it a lot more by the end, certainly. Let's see what else folks are saying. Chewbacca's Lover, it only took you 10 years to get to. I'm not sure what he's talking about when he wrote that. Robert Wilde's Supergirl was not included in the Superman box set, but it is on the Blu-ray now. Good to know. I will upgrade that eventually. AMC, woo, go for it, Cap. In trying to finish the whole thing tonight. I'm still back and forth and on the fence, but it would be weird if I came back for a third one of these, and I was able to knock out TV in like half an hour, because there's obviously not as much to do there. But I don't know. I guess I could take a bunch of questions at the end, and we could just talk about superhero TV and this stuff and whatever. Okay. Let me do this stack, and then I'll decide for sure what I'm doing. Okay, so I'll just pop this open real briefly. This is a tin. You can hear it for those of you that are just listening to the audio. And then it's got a lenticular Superman. That's a Christopher Reeve flying through the ass, just busting through it, which looks really cool. And it's got Christopher Reeve on one side and Brandon Routh on the other side. Really classy that it's not just Routh, since this is making such a giant deal out of Superman Returns. And it's weird how much reverence this thing has for that, because that movie ultimately kind of sucks. But nobody, I think, felt like that or knew it at the time. It was weird. It seemed like it didn't do well enough at the box office for them to make another movie, of course. But everybody I knew, including myself, that saw it, liked it okay. And then later I was like, what am I talking about? This movie's not any good. So it must have just been nostalgia really hitting us hard. And if this kind of thing came out now, I think a lot of us would see through it quicker. Because this kind of thing happens all the time now. But Superman Returns has a ridiculous number of discs. Because it's also got Bryan Singer's video journals. You know, if you want to watch that at this point. It's got Look Up in the Sky, The Amazing Story of Superman, which is an excellent documentary that was also made for the release of Superman Returns. And it's got a whole disc about the making of Richard Donner's Superman. And there might be stuff on that disc I've actually never seen, honestly. I'm not sure. But anyway, this is a really pretty set. It also comes with a comic book. What was this comic book, I wonder? I don't know. It's some John Byrne stuff, though. It looks like... Is it just a John Byrne comic? I'm not sure what this is. It's something called Rampage. I don't even know. Oh, it's Superman number 7 from John Byrne's late 80s run. So yeah, I've read that. It's just been forever. So yeah, that's a pretty release, and depending on what the Blu-ray release looks like, I might feel the need to hang on to this on top of it, kind of like I'm doing with the Batman set. All right, let's go through this. Look at a split. Here's Superman Doomsday. Once again, busting through the ass. Boy, we love doing that lenticular, don't we? Right in a row there, and then on the other side, it's got just the S. It's a really cool release for a really crappy movie. And then, well, not as crappy as this, though. Here's the Death and Return of Superman. I don't know if... Yeah, they did make this one movie, just like with Dark Knight Returns, and I just saw at the store, we talked about this last week, I didn't know if they were releasing it, but they did it with Long Halloween also. And so now I'm on the fence where I'm like, I have both of these with the one full-length movie without breaking it up, but I have both of the releases for Long Halloween Part 1 and 2. So I'm like, do I want to get rid of those and buy the new one? I can't decide. I'm not sure yet. So right now I've just got that. But anyway, this was a cool release, certainly for a terrible movie, with a steel figure in the front of it, and then the Blu-ray is inside, and I still have that in the shrink wrap. Oh, you know what? I'm glad I pulled this out because I haven't seen this cover. That's actually a cool cover with the superheroes in the front, mourning Superman after his death with the classic statue, and then there's Lois cradling him on the back. I just wish this wasn't in that continuity with that Superman voice actor, because I didn't think he was great, and there's a really stupid mass manipulation plot with the whole thing. That's awful, but I know some people really like that movie, but I don't, so there. Someday I'll do a rewind. And it will be weird, because I'll be going back to this again. This was the first movie I ever did on Superhero Rewind. I've done a re-review on that, and at some point I'm going to have to go to the same kind of material with a movie that's actually somehow worse, in my opinion. Here is The Death of Superman Lives, What Happened, one of the great superhero movie documentaries at this point, signed by the director and creator of this, John Schnepp, who passed away, unfortunately, and I got this from Connor Nielsen, which was super cool of him to bring that over when he was at my house last year, or maybe the year before. He's been here a couple times. I forget when he brought this. But anyway, it was really cool of him to bring that, and I finally watched this all the way through last week, and I will, at some point, talk about this a little bit on Rewind. What I'd like to do is do a rewind on one or two of the drafts of Superman Lives, and also talk about this documentary. I've been thinking about doing a whole month of unrelated superhero movies and just talk about scripts, which is a lot easier to do now that I'm off the cuff. Here is Superman Brainiac Attacks, just on DVD. It's really bad. I've got a rewind on that. Here's Superman Batman Apocalypse. It's mediocre. I have a rewind on that. Here's Public Enemies. Same deal, although Public Enemies actually should go first. I guess I just put this in alphabetical order, but Public Enemies was... Unless I'm doing these in the wrong order. Where am I at here? Doomsday. Yep, I'm in the wrong order here. Hang on. Yeah. Hold on, folks. Hang on. Public Enemies. Apocalypse. Okay, this is weird. I have a copy of Superman on Blu-ray, even though I have that DVD box set, because my DVD is a little scratched and it skips at a certain place or just stops entirely, and so I can't watch it on the DVD anymore. Pardon me. So I had to rush out at one point when we were in the middle of watching that movie with my family so we could watch it, because it wasn't streaming anywhere at that point. That was before HBO Max and everything. So now I have that on Blu-ray, and I will get rid of this if I ever get another box set. And then here is also the DVD for Superman 4, because it's signed by the actor who played Nuclear Man. I found that at the Superman celebration one year and couldn't bring myself to not get that. Or maybe I won that in a contest. I can't remember, but I ended up with that somehow. Okay, folks. So, like I said, wait a minute. How did all this fit on the shelf? Well, it did. Oh, got all this backwards again, actually. Sorry, folks. Making everybody stare at my back tonight. Okay, I'll figure this out later. I don't even know how all this went on the shelf. Maybe some of this goes up there. Okay, so, like I said, was on the fence about how much more of this I wanted to do tonight, but we are over 2 hours. I'm going to go ahead and take a look at comments. And then I think I'm going to call it a night, just so that we have enough to beef out a third stream with. Because I really don't think TV is going to take more than an hour. I mean, you know me, it could, but I'm just looking at what I've got back here, and it's all big box sets. It's not going to take that long. And some of it, especially like Smallville, I've talked about before, so I'm not going to need to really do too much on that. But let me go ahead and chat with you guys for a minute, and then I'm going to call it a night, and we'll do this again next weekend. It says larger, funnier, and more outrageous. So like 1.5 out of 3. I agree with that. He's talking about a superhero movie. AMC Comics, do you have the extended cut of Green Lantern? No, and I've never seen that. I guess I didn't realize that was a thing either. Nicholas Bob, excited for your rewind of Death and Return of Superman. Well, thanks. I'm not excited to do it, and I know some people are going to not like me when I talk about that. Bless the Sim, I've yet to see a Death of Superman do the actual point of the story and really dig into the middle World Without Superman arc. Exactly. That's the whole point of it. Have an epic fight with Doomsday. Make us really feel the weight of that. Although, at this point, I wouldn't mind a movie that just started where he's dead already. I've seen that so many times. And then, yeah, just deal with the fallout of Superman dying and the world not being able to rely on him anymore, and the religious aspect of that. The comics dealt with cults that worshiped Superman. That was really interesting. That's not been dealt with really in the movies. I think lip service is paid to it a little bit in the new one. But yeah, there's so many angles to that. And then, especially if you didn't show the Doomsday fight, then you could really also beef out the reign of the Superman and actually make those characters a little bit more three-dimensional. And that would be great. Nicholas Bodo, you don't have Man of Tomorrow. I do have Man of Tomorrow. Where is it? Where is my copy of... Oh, it's over here. It just came out of order for some reason, so thanks for mentioning it. Yeah, I actually have the Steel book, for Man of Tomorrow, which is a really pretty release. And I like it a lot. I love this movie so much I couldn't help but buy this edition of it, which of course costs a bit more. But I saw this first, I think, on HBO Max maybe, and then went and bought it. I doubt very seriously if I bought the Steel book not knowing if this was any good or not. And that is not in a slipcase, which is kind of surprising, because again, most of these things are. So every time I see one of these not in a slipcase, I'm like, oh, did I... Well, sometimes Steelbooks aren't. But I'm like, oh, did I throw away something I shouldn't have? Or... here is a really kind of sad piece of news. So I was talking about wanting to build, last week, a Batman 89 collection of just releases on every kind of format. And I still want to do that, and I actually started it last week, so I bought, or started getting more of it. So I found, I forget who, one of our viewers, maybe somebody watching right now, sent me it pinged me that Amazon was having a $15 sale on the Steelbook for that, and I was like, sold. So I went and ordered it, and it came in, and it was smashed, which is really unfortunate. This is a really cool looking Steelbook, and mine has this huge like crease in the center of it, and like it's jagged on the top now, and yeah, it's bad. I can't decide if I'm gonna try to send it back or just get another one. I don't like putting stuff in the mail. I don't know, but anyway, so that really sucks. Let me see what else folks are saying really quick. AMC, did you come to a verdict on what you're going to do a month of content on yet? Stay tuned on that, because that's an announcement I don't want to make for a while of what exactly I'm doing with that. But thanks for all the feedback for folks. I will be doing something with that, but I can't talk about it yet. So stay tuned. Robert Wild, that was me. Thank you, Robert. Appreciate it. Jar Jar Ed. No! Robert Wild. Oh, no, you did tell me about the Digibook. I forget. Maybe it was Tank Gunner that mentioned that to me. I forget. Sheriff Gearhart, are you going to buy any 4Ks? Just when there's a cover that's so pretty I can't help but get it. I mentioned this last week, but my eyes are not the best. I don't feel like I can tell a difference enough in quality between, generally speaking anyway, between Blu-ray and 4K. And so I haven't felt the need to get a 4K player. And because of the setup I have, like I've got a couple of kind of home theater setups with projectors. I don't really want to have to get two 4K projectors when my wife doesn't care and I can't see the difference well enough. So at the moment, I don't feel the need to upgrade everything all the way up to 4K and to have very many. I have a few. Again, just because of releases I really like. Sometimes the Steelbooks are only 4K with Blu-ray and not just Blu-ray. These days, I think nearly all of them are 4K releases, but or at least that's what I've been seeing lately at Best Buy and Target and stuff. But anyway, that's going to do it for me tonight. We could have blown through the rest of it movie-wise, but I think it would be smarter to wait so that we've got a more consistent length of these videos. It might not even take 2 hours next time, but I don't know. If I need to stretch it, I'll find a way, certainly. We'll hang out, we'll talk, guys, and thanks a lot for watching. I hope everybody enjoyed it and had a good time. I want to say thanks once again to all of our patrons, especially our Superhero Rewind producers, and I just need to bring up my list of those folks real quick so that I can thank them personally. And unfortunately, I am not getting the message I sent to myself about that. So let me go ahead and pull that up real quick, folks. Give me just a second. And I'll do this the way I did it last time. Once again, patreon.com/geekvolution is how you can become a Patreon producer, and one of the perks is you get your name read at the end of every episode, like I'm about to do right now. Thanks a bunch to Zach, Wendell Jones, Thorne Jones, Nathan Jones, no relation, Miguel Rodriguez, Michael Gulick, Matthew Brody, Kareem Roberts, Jacob Schneider, Damon Begay, Checkers, The Inventor, Adam March, Thomas Edgehill, The Day Ghost, Super Billy, Stone Gasman, Michael Martin, Matt Bat 68, Joshua Gilisano, Jajira, Joe Turner, Hot Soup, Gooster 123, Elliot Slater, David Crabtree, Chewbacca's Lover, Blake. So once again, thanks a lot, guys. That is going to do it for me this evening. Once again, you can join me on Friday into Saturday, anytime during those 24 hours to watch some DCAU episodes. It's going to be a 24-hour stream. I'm going to be doing it all day long. It's going to be a lot of fun, I am sure. Tomorrow night, the Captain Logan Show, some really big superhero movie news this week, announcements from DC, things that they are beginning to work on, including potentially a finally Man of Steel sequel, which is crazy, and also, this is all going to be dated later on, of course, but I'm mentioning it now because it's going to be a big week, and we'll also talk about the casting, the bizarre casting of Harrison Ford as Thunderbolt Ross in the MCU, and lots more cool, fun stuff happening this week on Geekvolution. I was Captain Logan, and thanks again for being here for Superhero Rewind Unscripted. Later, folks.